My wife's father shook my hand at dinner and said, "Thanks for keeping my daughter stable. Now someone worthy can take over." He pointed at my golden brother, and as both families clapped like this was some kind of promotion ceremony instead of the demolition of my marriage, I stood up slowly, set my phone on the table, and said 3 words that made them go pale. "Hey Reddit throwaway account, names changed. I'm posting this now because the divorce is finalized, and I'm finally ready to talk about it." A couple of weeks before that dinner, my wife asked me to sign a financial disclosure form. She said her father needed it for estate planning purposes, that he wanted to consolidate family assets for tax optimization, the usual rich people nonsense that always sounds official enough to discourage questions. Later, I realized it wasn't estate planning at all. They were sizing me up before the breakup, trying to figure out what I had so they could plan accordingly. The irony is that we had signed a prenup before we got married. Her family insisted on it. They wanted to protect their inheritance from me, to make sure that if we divorced, I couldn't touch Hartford family money. I agreed immediately and had my own attorney review it, making sure it protected my premarital assets as well. Everything I built before the wedding stayed mine. Kenneth's lawyer was so focused on shielding their side that he accidentally built me a fortress. I'm Julian, 35, married to Cecilia for 8 years, Aviation Safety Director at Northeast Regional Authority. I make good money managing compliance and incident investigations across 6 states. It's a real job with real responsibility. People's lives depend on the work I do. But to Cecilia's family, I was just the guy in Carhartt jackets driving an 11-year-old Subaru Outback, living in a regular townhouse in Westchester instead of a mansion in Greenwich. I was the safe choice, the temporary solution. I didn't sign the form. I told Cecilia we'd discuss it later. She got tense, said her father was expecting it by Friday. I told her her father could wait. She dropped it, but I could feel something was off. She'd been distant for weeks, texting constantly, going to her parents' house alone on weekends. 2 weeks before the dinner, my sister-in-law Melissa called. We'd always gotten along. She was 28, worked in advertising, actually earned her own money instead of living off daddy's accounts. "Julian," she said, her voice shaking, "I need to tell you something." I asked what was going on. She told me there was a dinner planned for April 16th, hosted by Cecilia's father, and that the whole family would be there. Then she added, "Your family too, your parents, your brother." I went quiet. My brother Stephen, the golden child, the one who could do no wrong. The one my parents had spent 35 years protecting, enabling, and prioritizing over me. We hadn't spoken in 2 years, not since I refused to loan him $40,000 to cover his gambling debts. I asked why Stephen would be there, and Melissa started crying. She said they were planning to announce that Cecilia was leaving me for Stephen, that both sets of parents had arranged it, that they'd been planning this for months. I sat in my office staring out at the tarmac, watching planes take off and land with their usual precision, all protocol and safety checks, everything in my world built on systems and verification. Meanwhile, I had married into a family that treated relationships like corporate mergers. I told her to tell me everything. For 40 minutes she walked me through the group chats, the coordination between both families, the timeline stretching back to February, how everyone knew except me. She said she had screenshots of the chats and would send them because she couldn't be part of this anymore. Within 10 minutes my phone lit up with forwarded messages from a group chat called Family Dinner, created February 19th, including Cecilia, Stephen, Kenneth, Diana, and my parents. I didn't just accept it. That's not how my brain works. Aviation safety teaches you to verify, cross-check, confirm, never assume. I zoomed in on every screenshot, matched dates against my calendar, aligned the timeline with when Cecilia grew distant, when my parents stopped calling, when Stephen suddenly became unavailable. The writing quirks sealed it. My father's formal punctuation with a period after every sentence. No contractions. My mother signing off with a dash and her first initial. Stephen calling Cecilia Leah, his teenage nickname for her. Details you can't fake. Then I saw a message from my mother that made my stomach drop. Julian has always been the understanding one. He won't make waves. That's just who he is. The understanding one was code for the one who folded, who kept the peace, who swallowed his pride so everyone else could be comfortable. I felt cold, like the office temperature had dropped 20 degrees. My hands steady but my chest tight. I called Melissa back and asked how she got them. She said Cecilia had shown her while venting, saying she needed someone to talk to about the logistics. She forwarded me into the group chat temporarily so I could help coordinate some of the planning, then removed me, but I'd already saved everything. When I asked her why she was telling me this, she didn't hesitate. Because this is wrong. This is so wrong. And you've been good to my sister, better than she deserves. After we hung up, I read through everything slowly, every message, every plan, every calculation about how to position this, how to make it look mutual, how to minimize my ability to push back. It wasn't emotional. It was strategic. The charity gala happened the week before the dinner, a pediatric cancer research benefit at the Waldorf Black Tie. I donated $35,000. Cecilia knew about it and had been thrilled about the attention it would bring, the recognition, the social currency. We walked in together, but within 10 minutes she drifted toward her parents. They were seated at a table with Stephen, my brother, and my parents right there with them, all of them laughing and posing for photos like a glossy advertisement for generational success. I walked over. Cecilia's father, Kenneth, 61, corporate banking executive, the kind of man who measured success in club memberships and vacation home locations, saw me coming and shook my hand too hard. "Julian," he said, "we were just taking some family photos." I said, "I'm family." Of course, he replied, gesturing vaguely. "But we wanted some shots of just the core group. You understand." "No, I don't." My mother, Caroline, 58, former socialite who'd spent her whole life chasing status through her sons, except only one son counted, stepped in. "Julian, don't make a scene. These photos are for the foundation newsletter. They want established families. Stephen just made senior analyst at Whitmore Capital. It's better optics. Better optics." My wife stood next to my brother smiling while our parents beamed as if I weren't even there. Stephen looked at me and smirked, 32 years old, 6 feet tall, in a designer suit, carrying the confidence of someone who had never faced real consequences for anything. "Hey Jules, good to see you. Cecilia was just telling me about your trip to Vermont last month. Sounds nice." He called me Jules, knowing I hated it, doing it because he knew no one would challenge him. I walked away, went to the bar, ordered a drink, and watched from across the room as Cecilia laughed at something Stephen said. As Kenneth patted Stephen's shoulder, as my father, Gerald, 63, retired attorney, nodded along to whatever story Stephen was spinning. Melissa found me about 20 minutes later. "I'm sorry," she said. "For what?" "For all of it. I didn't know about the photos until tonight. Mom planned it with your parents last week." "Great." She looked like she might cry again. "Julian, you need to prepare yourself. The dinner is in 6 days. They're going to do it publicly. They want witnesses. They want it to feel official." I asked her again why she was telling me this, and she said, "Because you've been good to my sister. You've been good to our family. And this is wrong. This is so wrong." I finished my drink and watched Cecilia pose for another photo. She was glowing, animated, happier than I'd seen her in months. "She wants this," I said quietly. Melissa stared at her shoes. "Yeah, she does." The next day, I was in my home office when I heard her voice through the bedroom wall. The door was closed, but the walls were thin. She was on the phone. "No, Mom. I'll say exactly what we rehearsed. I want what's best for my future." Then, that's the line. It sounds mature. It sounds like I'm making a rational decision. There was a pause while she listened. "Of course, I'm sure Stephen is going places. He's got the Whitmore position. He's got the connections. He's got the family name everyone respects. Julian is stable, but stability isn't a future. Stability is just maintenance." Another pause. I know it's been 8 years, but that's exactly why we need to do this now before more time passes. Before I'm 40 and stuck in Westchester in a townhouse talking about aviation regulations at dinner parties. I can't go back to being the one everyone pities. I stood in the hallway recording every word on my phone. The voice memo app timestamped April 10th, 2:15 p.m. She kept going. Stephen understands what I need. We've been talking for months. He gets it. He gets that marriage is about building something impressive, something people notice. Julian is good at his job, but nobody cares about aviation safety. Nobody asks about it at parties. Nobody respects it the way they respect finance. When she finally hung up, I saved the recording, backed it up to 3 separate cloud accounts, and sent a copy to my personal attorney, Rebecca Santos, partner at Dalton & Associates, with 15 years of experience in family law. I kept her on retainer since the gala because I had a feeling I'd need her. She called me an hour later. Julian, this is damaging. Combined with what your sister-in-law sent you, you have serious documentation here. I told her I understood. She said that if they went through with the dinner the way Melissa described, I needed to document everything, record it if possible, and then we would respond appropriately. Do you want my advice? She asked. Always. Let them do it. Let them perform their ceremony. Then we handle it properly. The dinner was at the Boathouse in Central Park private dining room overlooking the water. Kenneth had reserved it for 12 people, both families, a few close relatives, everyone who mattered in their immediate circles. I showed up in my usual clothes, jeans and a button-down shirt. Cecilia had asked me to wear a suit. I said no. She didn't push it, probably thinking it didn't matter what I wore. When I walked into the dining room, the entire setup felt staged, like a performance already in motion. There was a long table with name cards carefully placed. Stephen was sitting across from Kenneth, my parents positioned beside Cecilia's parents, and everyone else arranged like an audience waiting for the curtain to rise. My name card was at the far end, the seat furthest from the center. I sat down without saying anything. The table hummed with that forced conversation energy where people talk at you but never really listen. Cecilia's aunt leaned toward me and asked, "So, Julian, you still doing that airport thing?" "Aviation safety," I replied. "Yeah." "Oh, that's nice." She had already turned away before I finished speaking. Stephen leaned across the table with a big smile that felt too friendly. "Jules, glad you could make it. We should catch up more often. You know, family." "Sure. Family." Kenneth kept checking his watch. Diana kept smoothing the tablecloth as if ironing invisible wrinkles. Cecilia was glued to her phone, typing, deleting, typing again. She wouldn't look at me, just stared at the screen like it was the only thing grounding her. My father tried to make conversation. "Still driving that Subaru?" "Yeah." He nodded, said nothing else, and went back to tearing bread into pieces. The whole room felt like a loaded gun, everyone waiting for the trigger. The small talk was filler, just noise to fill the space before whatever was planned finally happened. I pulled out my phone, opened the voice recorder, and set it on the table. The red light blinked on. Recording. Kenneth stood up and tapped his wine glass. The room went quiet. "Thank you all for coming tonight. This dinner is about family, about legacy, about making difficult decisions with grace and maturity." He looked straight at me. "Julian, you've been part of this family for 8 years. You've been a stable presence in Cecilia's life, a placeholder during a transitional period while she figured out what she really needed. But Cecilia deserves more than stability." He continued, "She deserves partnership with someone who shares her vision, her values, her understanding of what family means." My father, Gerald, actually nodded along like he was sitting in a board meeting. Kenneth went on. "Stephen has proven himself. Senior analyst at Whitmore Capital, managing significant portfolios. Building something meaningful. Building something that will last." The table erupted in applause. Actual applause. My own mother started it. I kept my hands folded and waited for the clapping to die down. Stephen stood and gave a small speech about how he had always cared about Cecilia, how he had watched from a distance for years, how he had finally reached a point in his career where he could offer her the life she deserved. Cecilia was crying, happy tears, pressing a napkin to her eyes. I sat there watching my marriage dissolve in front of 12 witnesses who looked almost celebratory. Kenneth sat back down and smoothed his tie. "It's an overdue conversation, Julian. You're a nice guy, really. We all like you, but nice doesn't pay for private schools. Nice doesn't buy vacation homes. Nice doesn't secure a future. We've been married 8 years, I said. And you've been struggling for 8 years, Kenneth replied, his voice soft, almost pitying. Still renting that townhouse in Westchester. Still driving that 11-year-old Subaru. Still working at, what is it? Aviation something. Aviation Safety Director. Northeast Regional Authority. Right? He said it the way someone might say janitor. Look, Julian, we appreciate what you've done. You stepped up when Stephen wasn't ready. You gave Cecilia stability when she needed it. But now it's time for her to have more than just stability. Stephen leaned forward. No offense, man, but Cecilia and I have history. Real chemistry. We grew up together. We understand each other. Kenneth looked at me again. Julian, we've prepared separation paperwork. Clean, fair. Cecilia keeps her personal assets. You keep yours. We'll cover the legal fees. Make this as painless as possible. We think it's best if you move out by the end of the month. He paused. Give Cecilia space to process this transition. My mother added, We've already talked to Stephen about this, Julian. He's been very mature about the situation. Very understanding. We think this is what's best for everyone. Very understanding. My brother was taking my wife and my mother thought he deserved praise for handling it maturely. Cecilia finally lifted her eyes to meet mine. Julian, I want you to know this isn't about you failing. You didn't fail. You were exactly what I needed 8 years ago, but I need something different now. What do you need? I asked. Someone impressive. Someone people respect. Someone who makes me proud when I introduce him. And I don't make you proud. You make me comfortable. That's not the same thing. I stood up slowly. The room went tight and silent, like everyone had been waiting for me to explode, to shout, to give them a scene they could later use as proof that they'd been right about me all along. That I pulled out my phone, opened my photos, and turned the screen toward Kenneth. What is this? He asked. Screenshots from the group chat, I said quietly. The one Melissa sent me. Created February 19th. The color drained from his face. I scrolled and began reading the messages out loud. February 22nd. Kenneth writes, We need to position this as mutual, as Cecilia outgrowing the relationship naturally. February 27th. Diana writes, Stephen needs to be fully established first. No room for Julian to claim Stephen isn't ready. March 3rd. My father writes, Julian will be upset, but he'll accept it. He always accepts things. He's not a fighter. I kept scrolling. March 10th. Cecilia writes, I've been setting up the financial separation quietly, moving my personal accounts, establishing credit independently. When we announce, I want to be able to leave immediately. March 15th. Stephen writes, Should I reach out to Julian beforehand or just let it happen at dinner? March 16th. My mother writes, Let it happen at dinner. Cleaner that way. Less room for him to negotiate. The room went completely silent. I opened another screenshot, a different group chat called Transition Logistics. This one's interesting, I said. Let me read a few highlights. Cecilia writes, If Julian makes this difficult, we say he was controlling, that he isolated me from family. Melissa writes, I don't think we should do that. Cecilia writes, It's not lying. It's reframing. He did prioritize his work. That's a form of control. I glanced at Melissa. She was staring down at her plate. She had already apologized to me in private. She had sent me everything. She wasn't the enemy here. And then there's this one, I continued. From Stephen to Cecilia, dated March 25th. Stephen writes, Once this is done, I'm moving into the townhouse with you, right? I can't afford rent. And the Whitmore Capital position isn't as high-paying as I made it sound. The table erupted. Kenneth started shouting. My father shot to his feet. Stephen looked stunned, like someone had slapped him. I kept reading. Cecilia writes back, Wait, you lied about the salary? Stephen writes, I exaggerated. Senior analyst sounds better than junior analyst, and the portfolio numbers are team totals, not individual. But it doesn't matter. Your dad said he'd help us financially. That's the whole point. Kenneth's face turned a deep shade of purple. I reached into my bag and pulled out a folder. setting it on the table. Divorce papers filed this morning. My lawyer has everything documented. Cecilia stood up, her voice shaking. How did you get those? Your sister sent them to me, I said. She couldn't stomach what you were planning. Then I opened my banking app and held it out so they could see the balance. $1.8 million. Stephen's jaw dropped. I had been investing quietly for years. I was never broke. Kenneth's face went gray. Diana gasped. I kept it quiet because Cecilia asked me to, I said, looking directly at my wife. Remember 2 years into our marriage? You said your family was judgmental. You said they'd treat me differently if they knew about money. You said it was better if they thought we were normal middle-class people. I paused. Guess you were right about that. Kenneth sputtered. You've been lying to us? For 8 years. No, I said evenly. You never asked. You assumed. I wore normal clothes, drove a normal car, lived in a normal place. You filled in the rest with your own prejudices. I pulled out another document. Stephen's credit report. I showed them the score. For 92. Then the debts. Over $100,000. Credit cards, personal loans, a defaulted car lease. And you thought he was going places, I said, looking at Cecilia. Kenneth tried again. Julian, this doesn't have to be adversarial. You tried to trade my wife to my brother like she was a corporate asset, I replied. You involved my parents. You planned this for months. You created group chats to coordinate my humiliation. I gathered my folder. My attorney will contact you. She's very good at these kinds of cases. I looked at Stephen. Stay away from me. If you contact me, show up at my workplace, or come near my property, there will be consequences. He started to speak, but I cut him off and walked out without looking back. I got into my Subaru and sat there for 10 minutes, my hands shaking on the steering wheel, just breathing, trying to process what had just happened. Then I drove to the New York Marriott Marquis. I had a suite booked, king bed, room service waiting. My phone started ringing immediately. Cecilia, Kenneth, my parents, Stephen, numbers I didn't recognize. I blocked every single one, blocked their emails, blocked their social media. Then I called Rebecca. How'd it go? She asked. Exactly like you said it would. Good, she replied. We'll handle everything properly from here. Rebecca filed everything on Monday. The documentation was thorough. All the screenshots Melissa had sent, all the recordings, the timeline they had built to orchestrate this, the coordinated effort between both families. It dragged on for weeks. Court dates were pushed back. Rebecca handled most of it while I tried to keep working. Tried being the key word. My performance didn't slip, but everything else felt off. I stopped sleeping properly. Nothing dramatic. I just kept waking up at 3 a.m., staring at the ceiling for an hour while my mind ran through every possible scenario. What if they showed up? What if they tried something else? What if I had missed something in the documentation? I stopped eating breakfast. Coffee was enough. Lunch became whatever I could grab without thinking about it. I lost 8 pounds in 3 weeks without even trying. I started locking my hotel room door twice, checking it before bed, then checking it again an hour later because I couldn't remember if I had actually locked it or just thought about locking it. I stopped going to my usual places, the coffee shop near the office, the running trail I had used for 5 years, anywhere that felt predictable, anywhere they might think to look. I put my phone on silent because the vibration was making me jumpy. Every buzz felt like another attack, another message, another attempt. Rebecca noticed and asked if I was okay. I said, yeah. She didn't believe me, but she didn't push. My phone was still blowing up from numbers I hadn't blocked yet, so they started trying other methods. Cecilia showed up at my workplace on Tuesday. Security called me and said, there's a woman in the lobby claiming to be your wife. Says it's an emergency. I told them, tell her I'm unavailable. If she returns, call the police for trespassing. She came back Wednesday. Security escorted her out and warned her next time would involve arrest. Thursday morning, I got an email from my boss, Garrett, 51, a former investigator, a no-nonsense guy who had been running the division for 12 years. Julian, I received a concerning call from someone claiming to be your father-in-law. Suggested you were under extreme stress. Implied you might be unstable. Want to tell me what's going on? I forwarded him everything, the screenshots, the recordings, the timeline, the legal documentation. He called me 10 minutes later. This is legitimately insane. Your own parents were in on this. Front row seats. I'm putting a security flag on your file. If anyone calls about you, I'm referring them to legal. And for what it's worth, your performance reviews are flawless. If you need time off, take it. Otherwise, business as usual. I kept working, stayed focused, didn't let it affect my job performance. Professional separation, one of the first things you learn in aviation safety. Over the next 2 weeks, they escalated. My parents tried calling my office directly. Kenneth sent emails through business contacts. Cecilia's cousin posted vague accusations on social media. Rebecca sent a cease and desist, and the post was deleted within hours. Kenneth filed complaints with Federal Aviation Oversight, claiming I had conflicts of interest, claiming I was misusing my position. That backfired. The Oversight Board reviewed everything, interviewed me, reviewed my documentation, concluded Kenneth had filed false reports, and referred him for investigation. Rebecca kept me updated. They're panicking. Kenneth's firm is distancing from him. The false report to federal authorities is serious. Saturday morning, Stephen showed up at my hotel. Security called my room. Sir, there's a man here claiming to be your brother. He's insisting he needs to speak with you urgently. Tell him to leave. He's refusing. He's getting agitated. I went down to the lobby. Stephen was standing there in jeans and a wrinkled shirt. He looked like he hadn't slept. Jules, we need to talk. No, we don't. 5 minutes, please. You have 2 minutes. Then I'm calling the police. He glanced around at the busy weekend crowd in the lobby. This lawsuit is going to destroy everyone, he said. Mom and Dad can't afford this. They'll lose everything. Should have thought about that before. I didn't orchestrate anything. I just went along with it. You texted Cecilia for months. You lied about your job. You planned to move into my house. You participated in group chats about how to handle me. That's orchestration. I made mistakes. I admit that. But suing Mom and Dad? They're your parents. They clapped when Kenneth called me a placeholder. They sat at that table and validated every word. They chose you again. His face hardened. If you don't drop this, I'll make your life miserable. Is that a threat? It's a promise. I pulled out my phone and started recording. Say that again. He realized what I was doing and lunged for my phone, but hotel security grabbed him before he got close. Sir, you need to leave, one of them said. Stephen was shouting now. You think you're better than me? You think your money makes you better? Security escorted him out. I went back to my room and sent the video to Rebecca. She called immediately. That's harassment. That's a threat. File a police report now. I filed it that afternoon. A few days later, after the paperwork went through, Stephen was served with a restraining order, 500-foot minimum distance, no contact, violation would result in arrest. That same week, someone leaked my personal information online, home address, phone number, email, posted to some forum with vague accusations about corruption. Rebecca got it removed and added cyber harassment to the case. The following week, I got a call from HR. Angela, our director, wanted to meet. Julian, I need you to come to my office. We've received some allegations. What kind? I'd prefer to discuss in person. I went to her office. There was a file on her desk. We received communication from someone claiming you've been misusing company resources, accessing confidential files, using your position for personal investigations. I sat down. Show me. She turned the printouts toward me. The email claimed I had used work systems to pull background checks on family members, violated privacy policies, all lies. I pulled out my phone and showed her my personal account logs. Every search had been done from my personal laptop, using services I paid for myself. Background checks through private companies. Phone records pulled through our family account that I owned. I laid it all out for Angela, timestamps, payment receipts, everything. She reviewed it carefully. This is thorough. I'm Director of Aviation Safety, I said. Documentation is what I do. She looked at me. Who do you think sent this? Your father-in-law or your brother? They're trying to damage my credibility. She made a few notes. I'll forward this to legal. If this is retaliation, it's serious. I'm putting a protection flag on your file. Thank you. By late May, the cracks were starting to show publicly. Their whole social circle knew. Word spread fast. People started hearing the details. Melissa reached out privately to apologize. She said she'd been horrified by everything. She kept me updated here and there. Kenneth resigned from the club. He texted too many people asking questions. Diana stopped going to her charity meetings. Nobody's accepting their invitations anymore. And Cecilia, she's living with them. The townhouse lease ended and she couldn't afford to renew it. She's working full-time now. First job in 8 years, paralegal, makes $48,000 a year. And Stephen... Melissa sent a link. Stephen had left Whitmore Capital, now listed as financial consultant, which basically meant unemployed. I replied, yeah, he got fired. Gambling on company time. Terminated for cause. No severance. He's living with your parents. His credit is too damaged for apartment approval. Settlement offers started coming in. Kenneth offered $200,000 at first. Rebecca told him to revise. He came back with $400,000. We declined. Your parents are trying to settle too, Rebecca told me, offering $850,000. They'd have to mortgage the house. It dragged on, motions, delays, paperwork, but as discovery moved forward, the offers kept climbing. Kenneth eventually reached $600,000. My parents stayed at $150,000 with the mortgage requirement. Cecilia offered her BMW and $8,000 cash, everything she had. At the same time, Cecilia countersued, claiming I'd stolen marital assets, hidden money, committed fraud. Rebecca actually laughed when she read it. This is desperation. She signed a prenup. This will get dismissed. It was dismissed 3 weeks later. The judge ruled the prenup was valid. I had disclosed everything required. Cecilia's lack of curiosity about finances during the marriage was not fraud. In mid-July, Stephen violated the restraining order. I was at my new house in the Hudson Valley. Saturday morning, coffee on the back deck. I heard a car pull into the driveway. Stephen stepped out of an old Honda, probably borrowed. He walked toward the deck. I pulled out my phone and started recording. You need to leave, I said. You're violating a court order. I just want to talk. You have 30 seconds before I call the police. Julian, please. This is destroying everyone. Mom and Dad are going to lose their house. Kenneth is broke. Cecilia is miserable. Can't you just let it go? No, we're family. You helped steal my wife. You participated in planning my public humiliation. You lied to make yourself look better. You threatened me. You violated a restraining order. What part of that is family? I called the police. He started backing toward his car, but they arrived within minutes. They arrested him on my front lawn, handcuffed him, read him his rights. Violation of restraining order. Trespassing. He spent the night in county jail and made bail the next morning. A court date was set for August. My father called and left a voicemail. Julian, it's Dad. I know you don't want to talk, but Stephen is under psychiatric observation. Your mother is beside herself. He's still your brother. I didn't call back. 2 days later, my mother left another voicemail, this one angry. I hope you're proud of yourself. Your brother is in the hospital because of you. You've destroyed this family over what? Pride. Because your feelings were hurt. You're cruel. I don't even recognize you anymore. I saved it and sent it to Rebecca. Stephen was convicted in mid-August. The judge ruled that psychiatric hold did not excuse willful violation of a clear court order. He was sentenced to 90 days plus fines. My mother's voicemail was played in court. The judge said it demonstrated continued harassment and justified the restraining order. Trial was set for early September, but 2 weeks before, everyone suddenly became serious about settling. Kenneth's final offer was $600,000. Rebecca advised taking it. That's substantial damages. You avoid trial. You avoid more stress. What about my parents? Still offering 150. They'll mortgage the house. And Cecilia, her car and 8,000. That's all she has. And Stephen, he has nothing. But the judgment follows him forever. It wrecks his credit. Shows up on background checks. I thought about it for 3 days, about whether the money mattered, about what I actually wanted. Then I accepted all of it. Kenneth's 600,000. My parents' 150. Cecilia's car and 8,000. Stephen's judgment. The settlement was finalized on September 8th. Kenneth paid out of retirement accounts. 30 years of savings gone. My parents took a second mortgage to cover their share. They would be paying it for the rest of their lives. Cecilia signed over her BMW. I sold it. Stephen's judgment stood. 100,000 he would never pay, but it would wreck his credit for another decade. Follow him on background checks, hang over every financial decision. The divorce from Cecilia was finalized that same day, September 8th, 2024. The prenup held. The marital estate was small, just a joint checking account with 16,000 in it. She got half. After 8 years of marriage, she walked away with $16,000 total. I kept everything I had built. For months after that, I didn't hear from any of them. They stopped trying to contact me and finally let it go. I focused on work. In October, Garrett promoted me to regional director. Came with a solid raise, more responsibility, more impact. I focused on the house too, renovated the master bathroom, added a home office, built out the deck extension. I made it mine. I started running again, joined a hiking group, made new friends who knew nothing about any of it. I started dating in November. Nothing serious, just getting back out there and remembering what it felt like to meet people without baggage. That same month, at an aviation and infrastructure symposium, I met someone. She was presenting on structural engineering, 36, smart, independent, with her own career, her own money, her own life. We started off talking about building codes and safety regulations and somehow ended up talking for 3 hours about everything else: books, travel, philosophy, life. She didn't care about my car or my clothes or my bank account. She cared about ideas, values, character. We took it slow, no pressure, no expectations beyond honesty and respect. By December, we were seeing each other regularly. By March, we were exclusive. By summer, we were talking about moving in together. In December, I received a wedding invitation. Stephen and Cecilia engagement celebration. December 20th, the Boathouse, the same restaurant where they had called me a placeholder. I showed it to Rebecca. She laughed. Are they serious? Apparently. Are you going? No. I'm done with them. 2 days before the event, Melissa messaged me. Julian, I know you have no reason to trust me, but this dinner isn't what they're telling everyone. Kenneth is announcing bankruptcy. He lost everything. Diana is leaving him. She filed for divorce last week. Stephen and Cecilia are pretending to get engaged to save face, to make it look like something good came from all this. But it's a lie. They're broke. They're desperate. I read it 3 times and didn't respond. The day after, she sent another message. Only a few people showed up. Kenneth tried to give a speech about new beginnings and started crying halfway through. Diana left during appetizers. Stephen got drunk and started arguing with Cecilia about money. Someone recorded it. They're done. I didn't reply. I kept Melissa's number unblocked because she had been honest from the beginning. She had sent me the screenshots that saved me, but I didn't need updates anymore. My partner and I got married in April. Small ceremony at City Hall, just us and 2 witnesses. No family, no drama, no expectations except the ones we set for ourselves. That summer we bought a house together in the Catskills, both our names on the deed. Joint finances, equal partnership. She insisted on combining everything, said marriage was a team sport. She made good money from her engineering firm and wanted to contribute equally, wanted to be a partner. We weren't billionaires, but we were comfortable. More than that, we were happy. Other than Melissa's occasional updates, my family never reached out again. No more drama. No more attempts. My partner and I built something real. The night they tried to replace me, I chose myself, and that choice gave me everything I needed. A few clarifications because I can already predict the comments. No, I'm not posting screenshots or audio. Part of the settlement includes confidentiality language, and even without that, the chats include people who weren't driving any of this, random relatives who were added and just reacted. I'm not turning it into a doxing festival or giving anyone grounds to claim I'm harassing them. Melissa didn't hack anything either. Cecilia looped her into the planning chats while venting and asking for help with logistics, then removed her. Melissa saved what she saw before she was kicked out. That's it. No spy drama. For those asking why I didn't confront Cecilia immediately, 2 reasons. First, I needed to verify what I had. Screenshots are easy to dismiss if you don't cross-check dates and context, and I wasn't going to blow up my life over something I hadn't confirmed. Second, I wanted to see if anyone would back out when it became real, face-to-face with consequences. Nobody did. If anything, they doubled down. And for the people who think I should have just left quietly, the plan was never for me to leave quietly. The plan was to publicly frame me as a temporary stepping stone and rewrite the story if I resisted. That's why the rehearsed lines mattered. That's why the group chat mattered. I wasn't going to hand them a clean narrative while I was pushed out the door. One last thing, I'm not looking for advice about reconciliation. There won't be any. I'm not keeping the door open. I'm only posting now because it's over and I can finally talk about it without worrying that every sentence will become an exhibit. Guys, we are so close to hit 1,000 subscribers on this channel. If you are not subscribed to the channel, please consider subscribing. It really helps hit that 1,000 mark. Thanks for making this dream come true.